All right, so welcome everyone. If you don't know me already, my name is Kelly. I own Dogkind. I specialize in confidence building for very fearful, feral, shy, shut down dogs. And today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about my little dog Pancake's journey from being completely terrified of me and everything else and hiding from me to eventually being able to enjoy going on hikes with me and my other dogs. From hiding to hiking, Pancake's journey in trust and confidence. Who is this for? This is for you if you have a dog who's afraid of everything and they won't consistently take treats, and you wonder how much progress is really possible for them. A little bit about little Pancake, and that's him more recently in the photo there on the left. When I first brought him home, he only wanted to hide or run away from me and wouldn't eat if I was in the same room with him. So I think I have, here we go. Here's a little video of him in the first month or so I had him. And basically this is just showing that he would stay in his crate and I could throw really high value food to him. And he was too afraid to come out of his crate to get it if I was in the room. And this is even if I backed away. I think I have it here. Here I'm sitting across the room and he still wouldn't come out. So he wouldn't leave his safe space. He wouldn't eat when I was nearby, which, as you can imagine, made training difficult. So first thing we did was get some anti-anxiety medication on board and work on the behavior of eating near me. And this is something that I think is overlooked a lot. And when I hear people say, well, my dog isn't food motivated, so I can't train them, I say, well, that means one of the things we want to work on first is eating. So I think I have some early clips of Pancake practicing eating in my presence. And here I would sit at my desk, which is kind of in the upper left corner of the screen, and toss treats. And in the beginning, he wouldn't eat. I would have to leave the room first. And as we worked on it more, I was able to sit there as long as I wasn't looking at him. He would sometimes eat the treats. We kept working on this, lots of repetitions. Let me fast forward a bit. Here, he was starting to stay out of his crate a little bit as long as I wasn't looking at him again. And he would eventually venture out of the bed and get some food. Much later, we gradually worked up to this, but him being willing to... Here he was not quite ready. I tried to offer him a treat by hand. He was like, nope, I can't do it. And we continued to work on it in tiny steps. And eventually he did take a treat from my hand. So that was a big step forward for us. And this took us a while. I imagine that most of your dogs aren't quite this fearful. Okay, so medication and eating treats were the first things we worked on. And then we worked on building trust in our relationship, which really, I didn't force him into anything or push him. And I helped him learn that he could make good things happen. Like he could make me give him treats, basically, by using his behavior. And I'll show you a few examples of this in a second. Once he was willing to do some training with me, so do really simple behaviors, like maybe one of the first things I worked on with him was a paw target to a scratch board. So he would file his nails because I could not obviously touch him to clip his nails. Once he figured out he could make me provide treats, we were able to start making a little bit faster progress. Then we moved on to comfort with him touching me, then me touching him, harness and leashing, and then walking out the door, and eventually actually hiking. So I think I have just a few clips of some of his training steps. So this was much later, obviously, because you can see he's actually standing next to me, which he would not do for quite a while. And we worked on getting the collar on, introducing him to the leash. And you notice I'm never cornering him or anything. This is just going at his pace. Training him to opt in, harnessing. And now he is a prolific hiker. He hikes every day, and as you can see, bears little resemblance to that scared little dog who is hiding in the crate. So what are some common themes? If you are looking to build your dog's confidence and get them to the point where they are enjoying life more, being able to do more things, one thing to keep in mind, and it's hard, I know, but those big bits of progress that going hiking, that was built on tiny victories, on, he stayed in place when my hand was a foot away and I dropped a treat, or he ate the treat when I was sitting 8 feet away from him, looking away from him. Those were all the tiny victories building up to eventually being able to work with him enough to get his collar and harness on. And then in this photo, he has his little coyote vest on with the spikes to supposedly deter coyotes. There are all these tiny steps leading up to the big one. If I had just been focused on I need to get him out hiking, it would have been really hard for me. It would have felt really discouraging. Don't take any skill for granted. I mentioned working on eating specifically as a skill, and eating in my presence is something we needed to work on, and then eating from my hand. And those are things I needed to train separate from anything else. Like, I wasn't thinking of, he's getting this treat for sitting or looking at me or coming out of his crate. It was just eating the food was the behavior I was after early on. And that is a skill that you shouldn't take for granted. It's a tough one for these really sensitive dogs a lot of times. Set up your training so that the games are really easy and your dog can win every time. So they learn that there's a lot to be confident and optimistic about. They can keep getting it right. And avoid pressuring your dog or forcing them or cornering them. It's best, if you can, to let them sort of come to you to start a training session or come to you to have the harness put on instead of walking toward them with it. Even though that at times may test your patience and it might feel like you will never get the harness on, in the end, you will usually end up with a happier dog who is more willing to participate in things with you. So what is possible for your dog? It really depends. Every dog is an individual. But if you can understand what all those little skills are, what all those individual skills are that your dog needs in order to reach the goals that you have in mind, and you can break down big goals like going for a hike into tiny enough steps, little games that your dog can do now and win now, you can get there with your dog. All right, if you don't already have it, make sure to go to dogkindtraining.com/happy and get that free PDF on making your fearful dog happier. And within the PDF, there are links to the accompanying video where I talked about one of my student dogs and how we worked on identifying her preferences.